Hi, my name is James Eustace, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to do a basic cleaning of a fountain pen. Now, when you're using fountain pens, you're using ink through the tip of a pen over and over again. What this can cause is it can cause ink to dry, and it can cause it to stain the pen. And if you ever want to change inks, be it color or brand, it is very important that you clean the pen to prevent discoloration, distortion, that kind of thing. Now, cleaning a pen can be a very fast process. It can take a matter of minutes, or it can even take hours depending on how dirty your pen is. Um, the first thing that I'm going to show you here is the different parts of a fountain pen. This is a Cross Aventure. It's a fairly basic fountain pen. It generally takes cartridges, but you can get a converter for it to allow you to use separate pens. This is one of the cartridges for it, pre-filled with blue ink. Now, if you're using these, you can still clean the pen. They offer these in different colors, so if you want to change to a different color, you can still clean it. But if you do not have a converter, it will be a bit harder to flush the pen. You might just have to let it soak for longer, which will take a longer amount of time. Now, in here, I do have a converter, so you can see here the cap of the pen. This back part is called the barrel, and underneath the barrel, you will see the converter. Now, what this is it's this little glass tube with a piston on the inside of it, and on the end here is a little screw top, and when you spin that, it moves the piston up and down, allowing you to insert ink and flush out the ink. Now, the grip is called a section in the pen community, and inside the section is what's known as a collector. And what the collector does is that it brings the ink from the converter or cartridge, and it brings it to the feed, which is the black part on the bottom of the tip, and it allows it to go down the tines of the nib, which is the tip of the pen. Now, when you're cleaning a fountain pen, you really only want to bring it down to this point. At certain points, you do need to take the converter or the cartridge out. If you're using cartridges, you do need to take the cartridge out. So when you start to clean a pen, what you do, you want to take off the barrel, take off the cap, set them to the side. And from here, if you're using a cartridge, you take out the cartridge. If you're using a converter, you want to leave it in at this point. If you do still have ink in it, you can either dispose of it or you can put it back into the container which it came from. Now, I don't have any ink in this pen now, so I'm just going to get started with cleaning it. What you want to do first is make sure that you have plenty of paper towels, and you want to have a glass or two of water. I use 2, you can use 1, or you can even do it at a sink. The water will get dirty, so if you feel the need to clean the water, you can. You just want to make sure that the water is lukewarm, room temperature. You don't want it to be hot or too cold. It will cause it to damage the pen at that point. So what you want to start by doing is you just take the entire pen and dip it down onto the grip so that the entire nib is in the water. And you'll see ink start to disperse in the water, and it'll start to spread out. Now at this point, you want to grip the pen firmly, and you grab the top of the piston here of the converter, and you want to spin that to draw water into the converter. Now at this point, it will still look like it's filled with ink, although this is mostly water. So what you want to do is you want to just keep pushing this in and out, and you want to repeat this process over and over again. You'll see more and more ink get dispersed into the water. It can be fun to watch, a little mesmerizing. You want to do this over and over again until you notice that the water starts to clear up as it's going into the converter. You'll notice it start to become more transparent, and that's how you know that you're getting more and more ink out of the water. So this is starting to get a little clear. So what you want to do next is you want to pull it out of the water, and I like to have a couple of paper towels handy. You can use a towel, whatever you want. Paper towels are easy because they can be disposed of. It doesn't have to be cleaned. But you want to make sure that you have, if you're using paper towels, a few of them so it doesn't bleed through onto whatever you're doing this on. Now you take it with the flat part of the nib facing downward. The line on the nib needs to make contact with the paper. You can do this the other way, but this is the best way to get the ink flowing and the water flowing out of the pen. and you place it on the paper towel, you'll see it start to spread, and you just keep running it down the paper until you don't see anything else coming out the pen, and you can turn it over. You don't want to press too hard so that you don't bend the tines of the nib. Once that clears up, that just means that there's no more water in the pen to flow out. So what you do then is you go back to your glass of water, the dirty one or the clean one. At this point, I know my pen is still fairly dirty, so I'm going to go back to the dirty water to continue flushing it out there. And you just want to repeat this process over and over again until the water continues to clear, and until when you wipe it off, you don't see any ink, you're only seeing water. So you just repeat this process, and you can see here, I'll wipe it off a little. The water inside is starting to become very clear compared to the nearly black ink that was in the pen. So you just repeat this process over and over again. You get to a certain point, you stop, and repeat. Now this is actually cleaning very fast. Certain inks are known to stain, they're known to dry out. This ink that's in the pen currently, it's a better ink, so it's going to clean a bit easier. Certain inks you will need to do this for a while. I've done cleanings before that have taken 30 minutes to an hour just to do this, and I still needed to let it soak. Now if you find that no matter what you do, you're still having ink in the water when you're cleaning it, what you want to do then is take it in a clean glass of water. You can take out the converter and just drop the entire section, the grip, the nib, all of it into the glass of water. Do be careful when you're dropping it so that you don't bend the tines. That will permanently damage the pen. It can be repaired, but it gets expensive. You definitely don't want that. And what you do there is you let it soak for a few hours. You can do it overnight while you're at work, at school, and this will loosen up any dried on ink that's in the pen, in the collector or the feed. And once you take it out, you just want to go back to repeating this process of rinsing and wiping it off, and that will allow you to get a little more ink. Now if you're doing this and you're still finding that you cannot get the ink out, you want to go on to what's known as a pen flush. And what a pen flush is, it's a cleaning solution generally made of water, ammonia, dish soap, and you can buy it on multiple online stores or even a few specialty pen stores. But it can be just as easily made at home. And like I said, it can be made with water, dish soap, and ammonia. You can even not use ammonia depending on what you have, but ammonia does help clean it very well. What you want to do is you want to mix in mostly water, a couple of drops of dish soap, and you want to do about a 9-to-1 ratio of ammonia, using about 9 parts water and 1 part ammonia. For example, if you are doing 10 ounces of the pen flush, you would use 9 ounces of water and about 1 ounce of ammonia. Now you take this, you seal it, mix it up, make sure that it's one thorough solution, and then you can use it. You can either soak the pen, you can run it through like we're doing with the water, just allow it to go through the pen and really clean it. Once you finish with this, you want to go back to the water, rinse it out, do all of that. Now here I've pretty much made this water very murky. No matter how much I fill up the converter with it, it's going to look murky. So this is why I like to have a second glass, or if you're at a sink, if you have one nearby, you can dump this, refill it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it into the other glass. You might see a little ink coming out here. I'm not seeing it, so this is fairly clean. And you just want to go back to doing the process. Now when I fill it up, it still has a blue tint compared to the water in the glass. And you can continue to rinse it in the same glass, but what I like to do is take it in the dirty water and expel it in there, and that will keep this water clean so I can see a bit better that the water's coming up clean. Now you just want to repeat this process until you believe your pen is clean, or until you decide that you need to go on to letting it soak or using a pen flush. Now from what I can tell, this is starting to get very clean, which is good. Once you get it to a point that you're happy, what you want to do is you want to take it out, continue to wipe it off. I'm going to do it one more time just to be certain that there's no ink going in. Okay, so that looks pretty clear. When I wipe it, I'm not seeing any ink come out. I'm satisfied with the cleaning that I've done on this pen. So now, what I'm going to do is make sure that it's dry. I'm going to disconnect the converter. I can still see a little bit of ink on the tip of it, so I'm actually going to take that separately and run water through that as well, just to make sure that every part of the pen is clean. You can do this a few times. Same process as doing it with the tip of the pen on. You can wipe off, make sure there's no ink left on the outside. I'm not 100% satisfied with this. It's coming back fairly dirty. So I managed to get the nib clean, the converters clean, but this still had a lot of residual ink on the inside of it. It's starting to come up clear here. So from this point, once you get that to where you're satisfied, you want to take a little bit of a paper towel. I've got some spare here. And you want to dry off the pen. You want to be careful not to bend the nib. You just want to make sure you press it lightly but firmly. Make sure you're getting all of the water out of it, off of the grip, and off of the feed. You might see some more ink coming out at this point. If you want to run it again, you can dip it a few more times. I'm fairly confident in how clean this is at this point, so I dipped it again. I'm not seeing any more ink coming out, so what I'm seeing there is just residual ink that was dried onto the nib. Now what you can also do is, especially if you let it soak, water can be left over inside of the section around the collector. So what I like to do, you can use a Q-tip or you can use a paper towel like I'm doing here. I just tore off a little piece, I twist it, and with a Q-tip you can just run it straight inside. You want to be gentle as not to damage it, but firm enough to get any water or leftover ink out of the inside of the section. I like to give it a little twist, not too rough, just a little gentle. Pull it out. I see a good bit of ink coming out of that. You can see that it's very dark, so I will do that a few more times. However, once you're satisfied with this, your pen is clean. You're ready to add more ink. You can reassemble your pen, reattach the barrel and the cap, and you're good to go. Now this is a very simple process. Like I said, it can take time, especially if you need your pen to soak. It's always best, the longer it soaks, the more ink it gets out. So, now hopefully you know how to clean a fountain pen, a very basic cleaning, and I hope you learned a little something about fountain pens. Thank you very much.